Hello dear friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Mukesh English. This is Mukesh Soni. In this video, I'm going to talk about Greta Thunberg's famous speech at UN Climate Change Conference. About Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg is a Swedish environmental activist who is known for challenging world leaders to take immediate action for climate change mitigation. At the age of 15, she started spending her Fridays outside the Swedish parliament to call for stronger action on climate change by holding up a sign reading for School Strike for Climate. She received many honors and awards, including an honorary fellowship of the Royal Scottish Geographical Society, inclusion in Time's 100 Most Influential People, being the youngest Time Person of the Year, inclusion of the Forbes list of the world's 100 most powerful women 2019, and nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Her influence on the world stage has been described by the famous newspaper The Guardian and the other newspapers as the Greta effect. About the speech, this speech was given on 23rd September 2019 at the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York. As it seems from her words, Greta's purpose was to accuse the older generations of failing the younger ones and stealing their childhood with the empty phrases. Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, aged 16, she gave an angry and emotional speech to hundreds of world leaders at the United Nations in New York City on Monday, telling them the empty words and lack of action are a disgrace. How dare you? She thundered to white applause. The speech begins. She says, "My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I should not be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. And yet I am one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you are doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency, but no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that, because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of the staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on a generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us. We, who have to live with the consequences, to have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5-degree global temperature rise, the best odds given by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back on January 1st, 2018. Today, that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You're failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you, and if you choose to fail us, I say, we will never forgive you. We will not let you give we will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now is where we draw the line. The world is waking up and the change is coming, whether you like it or not. Let's recapitulate the key points of Greta's speech. She asks, how dare you all come to us, young people, for hope? Her dreams are stolen. Ecosystem is getting collapsed. Look away attitude instead of science progress. Ignorance of the situation. Popular idea of cutting our emissions. CO2, live with the consequences. And the world is waking up. Let's analyze the speech first. This persuasive and rather emotional speech was delivered by 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, a Swedish environmental and climate activist. She is famous worldwide for calling on leaders and governments to begin taking sufficient steps to fight against climate change. This speech was given on 23rd September 2019 at the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York. Secondly, Greta's purpose was to accuse the older generations of failing the younger ones and stealing their childhood with their empty phrases. What is more, she was there to make young people understand the whole horror of the situation and let them know that now it is only their task to solve the problem. Third, Greta's speech is good example of adding power to words by utilizing literary strategies, including the rhetorical triangle. First, she has used logos by providing specific facts, numbers, statistics to support her claim. For example, she says, the popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees, which is really a very concrete and reliable information. Greta also uses pathos by making the speech quite emotional and blaming the older generation's representatives for the kids and grandchildren's current and future sufferings. She mentions, we are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. After providing statistics, the speaker refers to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Changes. Further, she has used rhetorical devices very effectively, that is called repetition. Throughout her speech, there are four times when Greta Thunberg repeats, how dare you, while appealing to the world leaders. Such an emotional phrase said by a girl to influential people may sound very rude, but it actually draws listeners' attention to the level of anger of the younger generations. Lastly, Greta's words are filled with evidence, statistics, and proofs that cannot leave the speech inefficient and listeners indifferent. So, the actions to solve the problem are likely to begin. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Please do subscribe the channel, click on the like button for more videos on literature, workbook, pronunciation, grammar, communication skills, presentation skills, interview skills. Stay in tune with Mukesh English. Thank you once again.